Well, welcome back to Illuminate 2022, everyone. I'm Melissa Beck. I'm the Senior Director of Global Communications here at Sumo Logic, and I'm super excited to be joined by Ryan Breed, Senior Security Engineer at Hashicorp. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you very much.
Today, we're going to talk about HashiCorp's approach to monitoring and securing thousands of cloud environments for its customers and why Sumo is at the center of that approach. So I want to get started, first before I jump into questions, Ryan, there's no question that cloud computing has so many advantages. There's quick deployments and real-time business insights that you can get, scalability, cost savings, the list goes on. But the cloud is really complex, and you and your team is really responsible for managing that for tens of thousands of customers that you have. So tell us about HashiCorp and your challenges in maintaining a reliable and secure modern app.
So our main challenge is just the sheer massive data that we have makes everything slow, from being able to collect all the events that we need to see what's going on, to being able to search through them in real time to find things that are critically important now or are becoming important as we discover them, to being able to provide context around those alerts and investigate what's going on and what it means, whether or not it's real. Also, we operate in three major infrastructure as a service clouds. So each cloud vendor has its own suite of products, which we use pretty much all of, given the nature of software that we produce, like Terraform and Vault. We are interacting with nearly every single API that each of those vendors exposes. Plus, we maintain our own in-house systems for developing things like Terraform providers. So we're actually using like all of the stuff that every single IaaS vendor provides. So it creates a large amount of activity, it creates a large amount of stuff that's going on, and it creates a large amount of exposure, both for us and for our customer workloads. And digging through all of that volume, digging through all of that variety and identifying the things of interest, can be especially taxed when it's slow. Makes it especially difficult to do that work. Also, we've got a fully remote workforce. We've been full remote. We're a full remote culture for the last 10 years. And last I checked, I ran a report right before I joined, and we were in 70 different countries over the last 30 days. And that's, just like regular user logins. So people, all over the organization are literally all over the world. Each of them is interacting with the system in sort of a different way. We have different workloads. We've got our engineering and development type workloads where people are developing the products. We've got our customer-facing production workloads, which are operating and need to be up and continuously available. And then we've got back-end operational workloads, people operations, finance, security, and things like that. And so each, different audience of people in a different part of the planet might be interacting with, our core systems or, other systems in completely different ways. And it makes it a pretty significant task to understand all of those interactions and to isolate the things that are important to respond to and investigate and act on.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, the velocity of what your team is probably looking at across your organization, it just seems like like your eyes are going bug-eyed trying to figure it all out. So you leverage Sumo Logic as part of that security monitoring strategy. Tell us a little bit about how you leverage Sumo Logic.
So for us, the game changer for Sumo Logic has been its ability to do low latency search. That was a huge problem, until we did our onboarding. Searching through that massive variety of events and all the different shapes and flavors was incredibly slow. And now it's the speed at which we can do searches through our event loads allow us to generate alerts in real time. They allow us to investigate alerts and provide color to an investigation automatically by our workflow automation system. So when we get an alert, it doesn't just go to human eyeballs, it goes through automated workflow assistance, where it's kicking off searches and proactively computing things that we need to understand the nature of an alert and whether or not it's important. And in some cases, automatically dispose of that alert if we can run a query against the event load and see that, oh, this is not a problem anymore, after prompting the user to take action or something like that. And so having a low latency search system really makes that kind of workflow automation possible. Whereas before, running a large search, even over just, a chunk of a day across, tens of thousands of cloud accounts, across 3 vendors, across 3 IaaS vendors, it would take enough time that would break your concentration. So that's really been like the main thing that has really helped us transform how we do our alerting and workflow operations.
Awesome. And, if you were to, what advice would you have for, developers, IT ops, security teams that may just be getting started in using Sumo to help run and secure their cloud computing infrastructure and apps? All these teams are coming together now. Any advice or lessons learned that you have from your work at Hashicorp?
Yeah, so working at Hashicorp has really exposed the strength of using infrastructure as code, go figure. So we actually use our own products like Terraform to help us, minimize the complexity of all the different things that we have to configure across all of the cloud environments that we have to monitor. So we write our code in Terraform to manage the configuration in the IaaS, to actually collect the events that we need across all of the different clouds that we need. And that helps us understand and see, even if somebody doesn't have a background in cloud vendor X or Y, if they know Z and they can understand the Terraform for cloud vendor Z, they can quickly understand cloud vendor X and Y. So we help minimize the complexity by using infrastructure as code to maintain our own sanity. Second, we even use the Terraform module for the Terraform provider for Sumo Logic to manage our own content and config in Sumo itself. So we have sort of a complete story of, how do we set up the event collection? How do we set up the plumbing to backhaul all of the information to, a central location and, push it into Sumo Logic? And then how do we actually configure the content within Sumo Logic to, parse and analyze and generate alerts out of all of that event load? Also, really it's helped us focus on how all these different people interact with all these different workloads. It helps us, again, with the low latency search, like really fast search helps us, say, okay, well, what does this look like, for customer workload? What does this look like for, this particular part of the product stack? And we can take slices, we can make comparisons across time, we can make comparisons across different environments, different people, and do that really very quickly. It helps us in our core process for how we develop security alerts and analytics. We use something called the ADS strategy, automated detection strategy from Palantir. You develop a theory about what you're looking for, like, when a security event happens, it's going to leave traces. So what evidence, are you looking for to support the idea that this has or hasn't occurred inside your actual environment? And how do you structure your queries to go look for that evidence? And then, when you find such a thing, what additional information do you need to support a conclusion of this is a real security event or this is benign?
Right.
So we're forced to really think about, not just what are all the bad things that you can look for, what are all the weird things that you can look for, but really what are the traces that somebody's going to leave on your infrastructure, and what are you going to do when you find those traces? So that helps us, really focus on the performance side of using Sumo Logic. Having an idea of what you're looking for before you go looking for it helps you optimize things like your field extractions for performance. So instead of just doing field extractions for convenience sake to make searching easier, we're doing field extractions for performance to make queries faster. Leveraging the power of indexed fields to like reduce the scanned number of bytes to make searches return faster. We're also focusing on physical storage to make search faster, using things like partitioning and stuff like that. Again, since we have an idea of what we're looking for before we go running our alert queries and search queries and support queries and things like that, we're really focused on making our most common search patterns return very quickly, which helps an analyst stay in the zone when they're looking at something that might involve tens of thousands of events or multiple layers of abstraction. Focusing on making those making all of that supporting information available up front and making it quick to query really helps you make a decision about what course of action you need to take. We also use things like pre-computing some dashboards to support specific workflows. So we will take a particular kind of security alert or a particular kind of investigation, like pretend a user credential was compromised or something like that, and then we'll actually craft a dashboard where you can fill in from a link parameters to say, okay, here's a user ID, here's a time range, and then it gives you a whole panel of interactive searches that you can drill around, tables, charts, graphs, things that you can use to compare over time, and including the documentation for the alert, if it were generated by an alert, about a specific checklist of things to go through to verify that you've looked at this, you've looked at that, using just stuff like a markdown panel to include text. So it helps us keep, again, focusing on the time of decision for a security analyst. You get an alert, helping build all of the context and color, up front, focusing on the queries that you need to support the decision that that analyst is about to make, and then just making it all available very quickly so they don't have to stop whatever they're doing to go figure out or remember the search syntax to run this query. And oh yeah, I got to look at these events too. Just making it all available up front and providing a link to the dashboard. You plug the, all the parameters in, and then there you go.
Yeah, and Sumo's been at the center of that, right? So Sumo's providing that value of automation to help, speed along this process that's going in Hashicorp.
Yes, and again, prior to adoption, we had a lot of the same components scattered out across, some in-house components, some vendor-provided components, about half a dozen different code repos, and now we've got a single language, and for configuring everything and loading all the content, we've got we're down to 2 different repos or 3 for configuring everything. That includes all the plumbing to pipe all the events, and things are much simpler.
Yeah. So let's talk about it's kind of amazing. My head is spinning around, how much things that your team is looking at and monitoring and trying to secure. So, when you think about the value that Sumo Logic's providing, what's been the impact?
To be honest, it's helped us scale with the business, and it's helped us keep pace with the business, and as the business itself has been launching products and adding customers and growing accounts and things like that, we've been able to be as scalable, as the actual platforms that we're working on and, the products that we're providing to customers. So we've been able to, add new product lines. We've been able to add, new levels of visibility. We've been able to accommodate some pretty fundamental changes in the back end of our platforms, just because the engineering cost for adding visibility is so minimal. We've got everything in just a few repos, and the configuration is a few lines of Terraform. And so we had a new data source, we had new parsing, we maybe adapt some content, but everything, the marginal cost of adding visibility and enhancing what we have is pretty minimal. So that really has enabled us to scale much more quickly.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That kind of impact is, the stories that I always like to hear about, right? How it's really like impacting either like improved productivity for your team or, something that you can pass along to your end users. So, and the scalability piece, obviously as it relates to cloud computing is huge, right? If you can scale with the business.
Yeah, and so we never want to be in a situation where we're telling the business no, and we know that the environment and the product space that we're operating in is one of constant innovation. It's also one of constant innovation on the threat actor side. So the same kind of scalability where we just have to provide an observable surface, we're able to keep pace there, but we're also able to provide an analytical capability to keep pace with the innovations on the threat actor side as well as on the product side and vendor side. So right. New attack vector, new campaign, new whatever, we can build analytical capability and adopt it just as quickly as we can support a new product or service or microservice or region or cloud vendor, whatever.
So. Yeah. Well, so what's next for Hashicorp? What's next for the security team? How's Sumo going to play a role in helping you guys to continue to improve overall security posture?
So again, adding more analytical capabilities, increasing the expressiveness of what we have already, in using features in the core platform. We are integrating more closely with our own internal cyber threat intelligence platform and making that a better bidirectional push and pull. We're also looking at the CSE v3 schema and its ability to help us write more abstract content over the logs that we're already ingesting, as well as the curated content that you get in the Cloud SIEM enterprise product itself. We're also taking a look at the Open Cybersecurity Schema Foundation work that Sumo Logic has been participating in with some other cloud vendors, and we are heavily interested in efforts like that help us bring the power of a normalized event schema into this intergalactic zoo of products and events and resources and APIs and things like that, and having a normalized schema that is supported by a coalition of some pretty heavy hitters and people who are real stakeholders and practitioners is looking very promising for us.
That's amazing. I'm going to come back to you next year and we're going to have a talk about the intergalactic zoo and how that's going.
Right.
The Open Schema Network. So
right.
We'll get an update on that at next year's Illuminate. Ryan, sure. I want to thank you so much for being here with us. So great to have your knowledge. It's always interesting to hear what companies are how companies are leveraging Sumo. I think, this whole notion of how you manage 10,000 clouds for your end users is just amazing. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thank you very much.